hides behind different personalities, groups of people, and traditions. Often he could only manage the necessary moves by lying, or by losing himself in alcohol. His childhood friend Dan Jones talked of Dylan presenting a fetch, or double, to the world. My main task has been to explain how the public wild boy, the Rambo of Cwmdonkin Drive, could coexist with a private poet of such sensitivity. The obvious point of entry is Dylan's own writing, particularly his verse and his vastly entertaining correspondence. It annoys me when detractors suggest he was only a verbal pyrotechnist, or, an alternative version, he produced a handful of good poems, but otherwise was a Welsh windbag. Haven't these people read Ceremony After a Fire Raid, for example? Here is Dylan in an often forgotten role as one of our very best Second World War poets. For Dylan had a clear mission. He recognized the conflicting sides to his personality and sought to reconcile them through poetry. That is how I read his lines, "I hold a beast, an angel, and a madman in me, and my inquiry is as to their working, and my problem is their subjugation and victory, downthrow and upheaval, and my effort is their self-expression." Perhaps they are overdramatic, with their shades of Milton, though one of the delights of reading Dylan is the light touch of his learning. He can surprise with unexpected references from Restoration comedies to 1930s musicals. As he explored internally and externally, first his own mind and body, and then the natural world and the wider universe, he let a host of images breed and conflict. He toyed with the idea of God, acknowledged its value, but discarded it. His was a humanistic view of creation. "Man be my metaphor," as he put it in his early poem, "If I were tickled by the rub of love." Coming from the land of bards, Dylan expected to be supported in this project. But bourgeois society is unsympathetic to artists, particularly those who flout its rules. Dylan retaliated as best he could. He became drunk, he borrowed money and did not return it. He stole his hosts' clothes and vandalized their houses. He propositioned women and went to bed with as many as he could. His struggle for poetry against propriety and convention ultimately cost him his life. He should have lived in an earlier age, when medieval princes cared for their poets, such as Dyfed ap Gwilym. Dylan was sustained by his strong-willed wife, Caitlin. She recognized his genius, but tired of living in his shadow, particularly when she felt threatened by other women. The story of their tempestuous marriage runs through this book. Inevitably, its details are contested. Take one topic, alcohol, which played such a central and destructive role. There are tales of her in the pub, looking on angrily as Dylan wasted yet more money and work time playing the fool for a band of well-wishers. Or was it, as his friends allege, that without her fondness for whiskey, he would have nursed a pint of beer through an evening and been saved from his furies? I wonder how I would have got on with him. We had similar backgrounds, in at least one respect. Our fathers were schoolmasters, and we both attended schools where they taught. I would certainly have enjoyed Dylan's company, but found his unreliability annoying. He failed to turn up as best man for Vernon Watkins's marriage. His friend quickly forgave him, but Watkins's wife, Gwen, never quite got over it. At times during my research, the catalogue of Dylan's vices seemed to grow inexorably. Yet, even at his most exasperating, he retained an appealing innocence, the cherub-like image captured by Augustus John in his 1937 portrait. Dylan's mentor, Bert Trick, was by no means alone in regarding him as a secular saint, someone almost Christ-like in his awareness of suffering and in his sensitivity to others. Was this another of Dylan's poses, like the conscious woodbine he adopted when he became a journalist? I don't think so. What was often described as his sweet nature went hand in hand with a joie de vivre, one of the many Dylan paradoxes which, when given verbal form, make his poetry so rich and his life so interesting. At root was his artistic integrity. When the alcohol created a haze around him and the internal masks began to slip, he may have joked about his phoniness. But he could do this because he knew it was not true. Throughout his life he maintained his intense vision as he stuck heroically to his poet's craft or sullen art, These qualities, when reflected in his verse, ensure his continued enthusiastic following. Andrew Lycett, May